You know how when you look back on your life and you see, you would have never known at the time, but as you look back, you see the signs and how all the pieces, how the stepping stones were laid out. So when I was a kid, I was like 4 or something, the Ninja Turtles were really, really popular. It was like the late 80s. And I had a really active imagination. And so I mostly would just like kind of play pretend in my head all day. And one of my little pretend fantasies I lived in for a while as a little kid was that all 4 of the Ninja Turtles were my boyfriend. Like, I liked them all. They all had different qualities that were really cool. And even April O'Neil was pretty cool too. She was like my best friend. But I didn't know if I wanted to like be her or be friends with her or like. So there were some early signs about the whole bisexuality and polyamory in there.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from all over the world to hear their personal journeys of self-discovery through the lenses of love, sex, and relationships.
Our mission is to show people that they're not alone and to inspire them to embrace their true selves so that together we can open minds and live authentically without shame.
We believe everyone's story is powerful and beautiful, yet it's important to remember that everyone does life a little bit differently and that the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we aren't doctors. Please consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 393. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have another wonderful conversation with Megan and Brett. They were previously on the podcast a little over a year ago on episode 337, and today they come back on and share an update on their relationship evolution over the last year.
Yeah, it's been a big year. We're super excited to talk to these two again. And this is a really fun conversation as they dig into, opening up to dating more individually, exploring some kink, and even talking about their experiences on the pulpit at church. Again, it's been a good year, and we are super excited to dig in today. So without much further ado, thank you to Megan and Brett for coming on multiple times, for sharing your story, and we're going to just dig right into it.
For anyone who's a premium subscriber, we'll jump right into the interview now. And for anyone else, we're going to go through a few announcements.
You get a few more minutes of us.
You do before the interview.
Then you still get minutes of us anyway. Those announcements.
If you're not familiar with the premium subscription, it's a way to skip these announcements up front, but don't worry, you still get important dates of upcoming events in the outro. To sign up for the premium subscription, go over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, scroll down on the homepage, and you can sign up right there for only $4 a month.
Next up, we're really excited to tell you about our community. We tell you about it every week because it's the most amazing place on the internet.
It is.
Humbly.
We may be a little biased.
We've got over 300 amazing people from around the world who come together in an app called Mighty Networks to socialize and support one another. We also have monthly virtual calls on Zoom. We also are now hosting monthly virtual workshops that are included in the community cost.
They're exciting.
You can find out all of the workshops we have listed for 2025 over on our website. Actually, in the show notes, we'll put a link directly to the workshops page of our website. But yeah, we've got educators from all over the world teaching, and our next one is coming up on June 25th. It is called Releasing the Fear of Abandonment, and it is taught by Orit Krug, who was on the podcast back on episodes 309 and 378. Again, these are incredible workshops. We'd love to have you check them out. And you know what? If you miss it, you get access to all of the recordings from the previous workshops as well. So please go check out the workshops, check out the community. We'd love to have you come join us.
We also do in-person gatherings a couple times a year. Our next in-person retreat is going to be October 3rd to the 5th. So this fall in the San Francisco Bay Area, mark your calendars and come join us. To find out more about the retreat, about the workshops, about the community in general, go over to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the community tab.
And there you'll figure out how you can join for less than $10 a month. We'd love to have you come and join us.
We also wanted to let you all know and do a quick shout out that we are going to be at the Soul Play Festival June 12th to the 15th, 2025 in Northern California. We talk all about this on episode 387 with Holly. If you want to come join us, please check that out. We're going to be hosting our speed friending there, and we're super excited. Actually, and our Is There a Right Way to Do Non-Monogamy workshop.
Yeah, we're hosting a couple of different workshops at the weekend. This is not part of our community, but we're super excited to be part of this and to check it out. We were there last year. Again, we talk all about that in the episode 387 with Holly. And wanted to remind everybody, if you want to join us and you want to save $50, there are links in the show notes for this episode that you can do that.
Next up, we wanted to remind you about our favorite way to get tested for STIs. It is stdcheck.com. This is a service that Finn and I use. We just used it recently.
Just used it. What better time of the year to go get tested than kicking off summer? You're out and about meeting people.
Yeah.
A great time to know your sexual health status.
If you use the links on the resources tab of our website, you get $10 off making a 10-panel test, only $129. And best of all, you get to support the show and know your sexual health status.
Right in time for summer.
Yes. So thank you to everyone who has used those links in the past and in advance for anyone who uses them in the future.
Last up, just a quick reminder, we'd love to hear from you. Please send us an email, send us a voicemail. We'd love to hear your questions, your feedback, any suggestions you have, or even better, we'd love to have you come on the podcast and share your story, just like Megan and Brett. You don't have to be promoting anything. You don't have to be a coach. You don't have to be a content creator. You just have to be you. So please, please, please reach out. We'd love to bring you on the show to help you share your story and help everyone else feel less alone.
And with that, let's go and talk to Megan and Brett.
Welcome back to the podcast, Megan and Brett. We're excited to chat today. We're picking up your story where we left off, like year ago?
A year ago.
Year ago. Just one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Just a year.
Time is time, It's a little loosey-goosey. I actually listened to the interview this morning and I didn't even check the date. So here we are, super prepared, excited to talk. Welcome back.
Hi, thanks.
We'd love for you two to start just by introducing yourself for anyone who hasn't listened to the previous episode.
That was 1 year ago.
Yeah. So we are Megan and Brett, except that's not our real names. And we were pretty solidly in the land of swingerdom and newish when we first came on the podcast, and we used some pseudonyms, but our names are Margaret and Brian, and we're not as picky about it. So if we're just going to call each other by our real names.
Perfect.
Yep. So, and then just the backdrop, we've been together now for 19 years and married for, I've got to do the math here. It's about to be 14 years as of next week. So been together for quite a while. And we got into non-monogamy probably about 2.5 years ago, a little more than 2.5 years. So in the previous episode, I think the way to describe the first part of our journey was pretty methodical, slow, a lot of communication, and just taking things one step at a time. And so now we're here a year later after sort of continuing that same trajectory.
Yeah.
We went into it mostly swinging, wanting to have just some casual fun, but not quite as like anonymous and whatever as like your most that was fun, bye, we'll never see you again kind of swingers.
Yeah.
And so the running joke last time, I think, was that we were like too poly for the swingers and too swingery for the poly people. But we have since kind of continued our slide right into the poly universe, open marriage.
Yeah, no, I love that. That was one of the things that stuck out to me last time we talked was you're like, well, we're kind of in this sort of Venn diagram between the swingers, the kink, and the poly, and we're a little too much for some and not enough for the others, and I love that because I think that, I mean, that's the reality of this, right? Is there's not I am just this and that's all I am, right?
There's not a right way to do non-monogamy.
There's not a right way to do non-monogamy. So yeah, we're excited to hear where the journey has taken you to since we last talked. So maybe the best place then to pick up would be, I mean, as I recall, Brian, you were just at the beginning of holding hands with a new crush and reading every single book in the series that she told you about. And I think that was sort of like, we were like, all right, to be continued. So we're continuing.
Yeah. Well, I can certainly pick up. What was a bit unfortunate with the crush there is it didn't pan out. It was a bit of a long shot. But what was really cool about that experience, though, is that was really, for me, the first time that I would say, like, I allowed myself to feel open emotionally to someone in terms of, oh, I'm really interested in this person and I'm going to allow myself to feel. I think for so many years as just a monogamous married man, I just had this kind of like this like subconscious barrier that's like, oh yeah, I'm having a good conversation, I'm connecting with this person. But then something would be like, don't take that too far.
Yeah. Don't go too deep. Yeah.
What's that?
So don't go too deep.
Yeah.
Right. And so this was just sort of and so I think what that taught me, though, just that whole experience was, oh, I can have these feelings for someone else, and that doesn't negate or take away from what I feel for Margaret and everything that we've built. It's more like this is just a new addition to what the heart's capable of.
Yeah.
Mm.
And so the timing was pretty interesting, because one of the things that happened really through last year is I got back into being athletic and doing competitions. And so I went to Chicago to do like this national indoor pole vaulting thing, which, for being on dating sites is great because I'm in my 40s and pole vaulting, and it's not a euphemism.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
that's debatable.
I was going to say there was a whole lot of press from the last Olympics of the pole vaulting with the guy who knocked the bar off with his own pole. So yeah, I assume that's what everybody imagines now when they think of pole vaulting.
We've got a great reputation. But what was fun with that is we decided, like, yeah, let's go with a hall pass. Because I took Amtrak out there and thought, okay, I doubt anything's going to happen on Amtrak, but more so just, being out in a new place for a couple of days. Would anything happen? Well, let me try out the apps. Spoiler, nothing happened on the trip. But that did sort of, open that door a little bit to going, well.
Yeah, more conversations.
Yeah, what could happen from there? And I think it was while I was in Chicago that you had matched with someone.
Yeah. Well, we had a gay bar down the street from us that opened a couple years ago, and I had intended to go there. And I just wasn't feeling in a like go out and people kind of mood while he was gone, so I got on the apps as well myself. And I got onto Field and I got onto Her. And I mean, I did match with some people right away. I mean, if you're a woman on a dating app, you're going to have a million likes thrown at you. But like, were you referring to someone in particular that I had matched with?
Yeah.
That weekend?
Yeah.
Was that?
Yeah.
Oh, duh. Yes, I matched with somebody. Okay, duh. Thank you. I matched with somebody I actually already knew. I saw somebody I knew who I knew from church who I had just like met them a couple of times, and I kind of thought they were cute and stuff. And then there they are on this app. So I hit the like or whatever, and it was a match. So she had already seen me on that app and liked me, which was exciting.
Yeah.
Because, of course, I wasn't using the paid version, so it wasn't going to be a match unless we had already, like, just mutually liked each other. So that was exciting. We started talking.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it seems like that's a big shift, right? I think even to your point, right? You Amtrak out to Chicago, nothing happens, but at the same time, something does happen, right? Because there's a whole lot of conversations and mindset shifts that have to take place to do something like that. And there's almost this sort of like the Schrodinger's cat, where it's like, well, he's off. The hall pass could happen, but it couldn't, but we don't know. And it's sort of like ambiguous. And I don't know. I think in some ways that's a really kind of interesting way to dip into this, because you still have to do all of the work to prepare. You just don't necessarily do the activity that you prepared for.
Yeah. Got Schrodinger's one night stand.
Yeah,
that's right.
You also got practice on the apps, which is not an easy thing.
Was that your first time really doing the app thing, or had you two been out apping?
Oh my God. Well, we've been together for 18, 19 years. So I did do a dating website when I was like 18, 19. I was on like, OkCupid or whatever. I don't even remember what it was. Yeah. So I'm old enough to have been on a dating website, but never an app.
Yeah.
20 plus years ago, if you're talking about back then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think like I'm just going back a little bit in terms of our progression to get there too, because something that I think helped open us up to the idea of the hall pass was probably about a month or two prior to that, we had each gone on individual adventures. Where I had gone to spend time with a couple that we knew, and she had gone to meet up with a friend a couple of states over. And
One state over. We met in the middle.
okay. I forget which states border which, but okay, one state. But previously it was all about folks that we knew sort of as a couple in that swingers dynamic still, and then going, okay, well, I know who this person is, so now I'm comfortable as well. And so this was sort of somewhat of a continuation of that, in the sense that it's going, okay, well, do I trust Margaret, in terms of her people skills, her sense of safety, and, just not being around, yeah, bad folks.
Not letting weirdos in my bed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely like a letting go of,
Yeah.
the control piece, right? I'm here for the ride a little bit.
Yep. And speaking of dating apps, holy shit. I now understand, when I see so many people complaining. I think there's entire subreddits dedicated to how much some of the apps, suck, or just bad experiences with people. So I think kind of to Margaret's point, it's very interesting seeing the difference of being a guy on a dating app relative to like being a woman on a dating app, where it's like, maybe like once every couple of full moons, it's like, oh my God, I got a like. Whereas, I think probably for you and for one of the girls that I'm dating, like, she had created a FET profile, which FET isn't even a dating site per se, but all of a sudden within one day she had over a dozen DMs of, people. And I'm going, wow, no one has ever hopped in my DMs like on FET.
It's a different experience. Yeah.
Well, so I'm curious then, at this point, had you two was this the point where you jumped off into, okay, we're still, the swinging together is still a thing, but we're going to start branching out into dating individually, regardless of whether it's a out of town hall pass, or did that sort of continue to sort of slow build towards that?
Well, after his trip to Chicago, in which we both downloaded some dating apps, some time had gone by and neither of us had deleted them. I had engaged a little bit with it here and there, but I didn't want to do too much because we hadn't talked about it. So after, I don't know, not long, a week or two or a couple weeks or so, like I think somehow I had just mentioned like, yeah, I never really deleted the apps, and I've matched with a couple people and they seem really cool, including this person I already know.
Well, I'm trying to think of the timelines of, when I had gone on my, I had gone on one first date that I got ghosted on after that, which I learned all about the fun that is being ghosted. Probably a couple of stories there, but then had a really good date on 420. And so, so that means that her and I, a month from now, will be at our 1-year anniversary, which that'll be fun.
Since your first date.
Since our first date. Our first time having sex.
You did it on the first date?
Of course.
I know you told me that. I just, that was a year ago.
But
he puts out on the first date, ladies.
Mm-hmm. But I was trying to remember where that lines up with some of the folks that you've had. I think it's right around.
Oh yeah, it's right around the same time. I mean, I went on my first date with JJ on like April 28th. So that was just like a week later.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember if I had gone out with anybody else from the apps before that. I went on a few dates around the same time, so I don't remember what was before, what after.
Curious about sort of how the dating separate like has gone, and like as far as like a shift from doing everything together. Like that's a big shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious how you two kind of arrived at, all right, let's start doing this separate. And then how did it go once you started, like when the rubber meets the road?
I think that both of us, I would say that neither of us have ever had too much of a sense of like preciousness, of like a symbolic meaning of like if one of us has sex with somebody else, that is just symbolically gonna just brush or destroy or change forever some sacred thing, or like we've never held it on such. I mean, it's special and sacred and lovely in what we have together, but like neither of us had so much of like a clinging to this idea of whatever that we can't let go.
Well, right. Well, I would say it was sort of like the I mean that kind of, I think, more describes like the start of like the swinger journey, you know, in terms of our comfort level with sex with other people. But I think like when it came to the dating stuff,
Well, that too.
because then that got more into the emotional element too. And I think
Yeah.
that was, I think, for me, actually like an area of a little bit of inner growth in terms of just like, you know, recognizing a combination of my own emotional capacity and
Mhm.
like, we'll probably to backtrack, or at some point we'll wind our way back to it. But we did come out, and I spoke from the pulpit at our church and told them all about how we're non-monogamous. And
I mean, not all about it.
yeah, but gave them an awesome like 101 on it. And so that was, you
We're
know,
going to
quite
need
a
to
lot
back
of
up
fun.
to that in a moment. So go
Yes.
continue.
But one of the things that I mentioned during that's I think a belief of mine that came out of this is a firm conviction that the human heart is has infinite capacity for love, but obviously what we don't have infinite capacity of is time and just, you know, what we're able to do to give that love expression.
Yeah.
And so it's finding that balance, and but just realizing that like if I don't take what we have for granted and we continue nurturing what we have, that it's like, oh, it's also possible to nurture and grow like emotionally with other people
Yeah, I
alongside.
think that was probably the key line when you said that, when you were giving that, is that loving someone else doesn't diminish the love you have for someone, given that as long as that love isn't taken for granted.
Mm.
So the same amount of care and attention should be given. Don't, because I've heard so many sad stories of people feeling put on the back burner, or like their partner who hasn't done XYZ for me in 20 years is doing XYZ for this person all of a sudden, or whatever, or, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like that's something that you two have been very intentional about throughout this whole journey.
Yeah, I think that we we don't have long drawn out conversations where we outline all these feelings to each other. I think we're both lucky in that this is just how we kind of both operate, which is really nice.
Mhm. Yeah.
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 Mhm.
Well, and it's interesting, you know, you had said we don't really have things that we're like holding so tightly and sacredly, but at the same time, it seems like it's more big picture of just let's just keep watering the garden, right? Like we don't. It's
Mhm.
not like you have to use this exact watering can as long as like we're feeling good, right? It's not, well, that's our watering can. How dare you use it on that garden over there? But more just like, hey, we got water, we got sunlight, and we're growing. Like we're doing our thing. It seems like it's much less about the specifics and more about the general, just keeping that feeling alive, that
Mhm.
sort of general nurturing.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And so this whole journey this last year, where are you today?
Today, I have a girlfriend, an official, actual girlfriend, and a couple of other sweethearts. I don't know, just for me, the line between like a friend or a lover or a partner is basically one conversation, but in practice, they might look identical to an outsider.
Yeah.
And but we also still have people that we swing with. We still occasionally go to the club. We've joined a BDSM club as well, so we have some play partners in that space, or acquaintances more. We haven't, not a whole lot of play partners yet, but
Yeah.
Yep. And say on my end, I've got, I guess, 2 relationships that I'm in addition to my marriage. And so one is going to be, well, it's a month out from a year. We started seeing each other, and then another relationship that's, I've got to do some math here. It's about 3.5 months in. That's been going really good as well. And so it's been pretty cool where we have some fun dynamics where Margaret's girlfriend comes and spends the night every Monday. So it's just a lot of fun getting to, because I know her well. If I'm hanging out, I can hear a lovely soundtrack coming out of the room. And then sometimes on Fridays, we'll do what we call like a sleepover exchange, where I'll go over to a partner's house, spend the night there. Her girlfriend will be here, spend the night with her, so because I, feel bad going, oh yeah, I'm going to go spend the night with, my partner and just have you home by yourself with no one to cuddle you. So
Sometimes I like a nice quiet evening at home. Like, just because you're out on a Friday night doesn't mean I have to have somebody over, because it has to be equal.
Yeah.
But there can be both, right? There can be nice to have that and doesn't need it. Don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, he's going to go spend the night this Friday, but I'm having a friend over, not my girlfriend. I'm just having a friend over to hang out and play games. And maybe we might smooch, but maybe we'll just play games.
Yeah. I love the fluidity, right? The way you described that a minute ago, right? It's the difference between a friend and a lover and a play partner is really just a conversation. And to most outsiders, they might all look exactly the same. And I think I think that's kind of brilliant that things are that fluid and, I don't know, not necessarily blurry, but just that it doesn't have to be so segregated.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it reminds me of like the concepts of home organizing, where like some people will take one big bin of a category and everything in that category goes in there, and other people will have a bin for a category, but there's subcategories with sections inside. And my love bin, there's a few sections in it, like, maybe like husband or life partner or whatever, that's like got its own little cubby, but most of the bin is just like, my people are in there.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we want to, we do this and then we do that and we talk about it and we have a good time and just try to treat everybody with love and respect.
Yeah. Sometimes I say sex is just one of many things that 2 pals could do together.
That's right.
I love that.
I love that. Yeah.
We could play Mario Kart.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Right. Well, I'm curious, you threw around a few times church, and that even one of the people you swiped on, or that your girlfriend kind of met through church. And so I'm curious.
I imagine a lot of people listening perked up at that.
Yeah, they're like,
wait,
whoa,
what?
Who can go to church and talk about this stuff? So I would love to back up to that. How did that come to be, and what kind of church is this?
Okay, I'm just going to clarify super quick, tiny thing. The person from church who I matched with is not the person who is my girlfriend.
Got it.
I met my girlfriend on that same app, but and they all know each other. They're both trans. They're both like, we all commune in the same like scene and have our Venn diagram of friend groups is like practically a circle and everything. Like,
Yeah.
So our church.
Yeah, so I'll hop into that. So in terms of denomination, it's a Unitarian Universalist, which is probably going to make a lot of folks go, "Oh, right, those people."
Yeah.
But one of the things that was great throughout the whole year, there was this sermon series on the book. I believe it's called
All About Love.
All About
by
Love
Bell Hooks.
by Bell Hook.
Yes.
And so the last Sunday of that series was in May of last year, and it was about sex. And the minister said, okay, this is going to be an R-rated service. So we're going to let folks know, and most likely, not have the youngins there. So at one point, he had the whole congregation yelling penis loud. It was a hoot. But I was what was called a worship associate. So I would periodically throughout the year go up and share a reflection, something maybe 5-10 minutes long, on point with the theme of the day. And so probably about 4 months before the service even happened, and I knew that it was going to be about sex, and it was going to be really, really very frank and willing to go there.
Yeah.
I told the minister, I said, okay, we're consensually non-monogamous. I think it's a topic folks have heard about, but I think not a lot of folks have actually really heard about it in a way that isn't scandalous or, like that kind of strips away the taboo. And
Right.
so I spent a lot of time in conjunction with Margaret, making sure that everything that I shared would, align with how we felt and what we wanted to present. And so I gave the lowdown on being bisexual, on being non-monogamous, on the fun that is NRE. I think introducing folks to the concept of compersion, because I just think that it's just quite to me it's quite a radical shift from, I think we sort of have so many cultural norms around jealousy, to the fact that murders, can be considered less severe if it's, done in the heat of the moment because of, a jealous reaction or something like that. Like it's,
Right. Right.
and I mean, half of Shakespeare wouldn't exist if it wasn't for jealousy. Um, and so I think so I thought that was pretty fun. And I think one of the lines I said that got everyone laughing was just around sex in general. And I said, look, we really tend to put sex on this really high pedestal, like it's the singular thing that holds a couple together. And, I think that I said, sex is fun. It makes for a great hobby. So I think when I refer to it as a fun hobby, that was,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I have to also say that you packed a lot into a short time frame.
Right.
He
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
And how did it go? Like what was the response?
It was, I got some really good feedback from folks. I think what really meant the most to me was someone that I know from the congregation who revealed that they and their partner have been non-monogamous for over 20 years and have never disclosed or shared that with anyone in the church community, and just how good it felt for them to feel seen and to really just have that pretty normalized by someone. I'm pretty well known within the congregation. I was a leader in it for quite a while and am pretty visible. And so for sort of using that position to say, hey, I'm going to use whatever social capital I have to say I'm a normal guy and you all like me, and this, oh, by the way, is what I do, and this
Yeah.
person is also normal and wonderful and everything else, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what they
And
do. So yeah.
yeah, there's so much power, I think, in that, right? That was a place that Emma and I landed when we were starting to tell people, right? In our lives of like, you've noticed for a long time, we've been like this for a long time. And now you just know, right? So we're the same people you knew yesterday
Mhm.
or 5 minutes ago. It's just, something else about us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That service was fun. I was involved in it in that I decided to dust off my rusty guitar chops and play and sing the song "Lovin' Is Easy" by Carsey Blanton.
Yep. Yep.
That's
I
awesome.
love
I
it.
love that too.
I love it.
That sounds like a really great experience.
It was really cute. My song came right before your reflection, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So it was my song and then his reflection. I mean, so stinking cute. Like nobody could sit there and be like, these debaucherous heathens or whatever. It's like, no, we're good.
Yeah. Were you at all worried about this? Like, had you grown up with religion that maybe like played into this, and from like more of a fear standpoint that sharing this would cause blowback from the congregation or everybody else?
I mean, we both come from pretty strict, clear-cut religious backgrounds. But in the instance of like this specifically of us coming out to our religious community, I wasn't really nervous about it. I was nervous in the sense that I was maybe a little nervous that somebody might come out of the woodwork judging me that I would have never expected to be judgmental.
Yeah,
Like fearing that somebody there that I really liked and respected would just be so offended at who I am that like that something, but like I didn't fear like a widespread backlash or like becoming a pariah or something terrible
yeah,
like that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
Has that paved the way at all for sharing this with other friends, family, and people in your lives that maybe weren't in the know?
We've shared it with our some of our closest friends, no. Like the people like our vanilla friends who we've been friends with for the longest, they know now. As a matter of fact, my girlfriend came to their New Year's party that we've been going to steadily for like at least a decade now. So they know, yeah. Our families do not.
Yeah, it's one of those weird ones where it's interesting where you could say that there's the church family,
Mhm.
um, and it's a large church, probably several hundred members. Felt fully comfortable with them, but like my family, I just don't want to deal with the hassle. They're conservative Mormon, which that's a whole can of worms. But ironically, 6 generations back, I have an ancestor that had 11 wives and 48 kids. So I mean, technically, non-monogamy is part of my family story already, and it was normalized in a certain very odd and toxic way,
Mhm.
kind of throughout my childhood, because it was never hidden from us that, oh yeah, we're from polygamy. I think we're from wife number 7, but yeah, obviously old school Mormon polygamy was really patriarchal and not what I would call my flavor
Mhm.
of, of non-monogamy. But just one of those things where it's going, yeah, I just can't,
Yeah.
not with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like some people feel really like it's really important to be fully out to their family or their closest people if they are either if they like identify if their polyamory is part of their like identity or they just feel really strongly about it, they would feel most authentic telling everybody they know. But for me, it's more like, I'm looking at it as, like, harm versus, like, is my need to be my full authentic self in every way, in every facet, with everybody, more important than, like, my poor mom who has anxiety and is a devout Christian and a lovely human, but, like, she doesn't really need to know that. It would cause her more harm than it would do me good.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah, there's an evaluation there at
Yeah.
times. Yeah. Yeah. I know I believe in one of your emails you shared with us something along the lines of like how you feel that your childhood and the way you were raised kind of led you to where you're at today. And
Mhm.
I'm curious with non-monogamy, like curious if you could expand on that.
Uh, okay. Um, so, wh so this is I'm a strange I hate saying this, like, I'm not like other girls or I'm so unique or my experience is so different, but it kind of is, because, I'm an only child and my dad went to work and my mom stayed home to raise me and she decided to homeschool me, and we also attended this church for most of my childhood in which the standard was to have a lot of kids. Like any household that had fewer than 3 kids was like kind of weird, and like one of the families was up to like 18 or 19 last time I heard.
They got to make up for the
So
ones who only have 1 or 2, I think.
yeah, oh, that's fair. We can't all have litters of children. Um, but my mom got pregnant with me at 19 and she had also dropped out of school in 10th grade. So she actually still had her 10th grade health class biology book all about like reproduction, and it was this kind of it was large, like 11 by whatever, but soft cover and flat white paper, and it had all those just your basic diagrams and people-shaped figures, and it had her smiley faces and sarcastic
Wow.
word bubbles, and she would draw boobies and like pubic hair on the people, or like word bubbles on the sperm, like which way to the uterus or whatever. And that was on our bookshelf in the living room, and me, as young as 3, 4, 5 years old, could just go look at it. And my mom, who unfortunately experienced some sexual abuse as a child, had decided early in her life that she was never going to shelter me from understanding my body and what it's for, and teaching me the names of my body parts as they are correctly called, and who is and isn't allowed to see them and touch them. And
Yeah.
so 3 cheers to her for teaching me very well in that regard. And having the access to the sexual education information, just sex was, it was almost so not medicalized, but so like just birds, bees, facts, this is where babies come from, that it didn't have any like allure as something tantalizing. It was all just nuts and bolts, and this is how life works. And then as I got a little bit older, it was made clear that, uh, God created sex so we can reproduce, and he made it feel good so we would want to reproduce. And he told us that we're supposed to, love each other, and husbands and wives need private time and yada yada. So I was always raised with the impression that sex is supposed to be fun, it's supposed to feel good, it's there for a reason, and also you should only do it with your spouse. And you shouldn't do it at all until you're married. But at least I didn't have any like weird, gross hangups around, there were no like sacred cows, even stuff like oral sex, or masturbation. It was just kind of like, no, you're not going to go to hell if you do those things. Like,
Yeah. So that was your background.
that was my background, although I do need to make one more little point because it was one of my bullet points. One other thing, how when you look back on your life and you see, you would have never known at the time, but as you look back, you see the signs and how all the pieces, how the stepping stones were laid out. So when I was a kid, I was like 4 or something, the Ninja Turtles were really, really popular. It was like the late 80s. And I had a really active imagination. And so I mostly would just like kind of play pretend in my head all day. And one of my little pretend fantasies I lived in for a while as a little kid was that all 4 of the Ninja Turtles were my boyfriend. Like, I liked them all. They all had different qualities that were really cool. And even April O'Neil was pretty cool too. She was like my best friend. But I didn't know if I wanted to like be her or be friends with her, or like, so there were some early signs about the whole bisexuality and polyamory in there.
Yeah. I don't want to have to pick one of these turtles.
Right.
I can get a little Michelangelo, some Donatello, Raphael. You name it. I can handle it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that story too. Of like, I mean, little kids, like, there's such a great imagination there. And yeah, really great story.
It's allowed to make sense in my funny little 4-year-old, 5-year-old brain.
Definitely.
Totally.
Yeah. Why stop at one? No one
Right.
says can't have more than one.
I like turtles.
Right.
One of my favorite YouTube videos, by the way.
Yes.
For anybody who's not in the know, there's a link in the show notes to the I Like Turtles video.
Yes.
And you?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, I certainly had probably a very sexually confused childhood and adolescence. Probably don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I'll just say that it was a bit odd. But I did find it kind of how I mentioned earlier, just that Mormon upbringing, and realizing this was more just within the last year or two. I went, oh, literally my whole life we had this picture of my ancestor up in our hallway, and he was the big old polygamist with all the wives. And my dad's a huge genealogy fan, and so he will spend hours, and that's not exaggeration, I do mean hours. She has gotten caught up in the history lessons of our family, and yeah, so So the open history of polygamy, because the mainstream Mormon church, folks will be very quick to point out, oh, the mainstream Mormons stopped polygamy, 130 years ago. It's the offshoots today that do it. Well, fine. My ancestor was still the mainstream Mormons back when they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just non-controversial, though, for my dad to talk about it and for my mom to also go, yeah, I'm so glad that's done with. But then just in retrospective going, yeah, I was just really had exposure to the idea of having multiple partners, again, in a very different way than how I approach it. But I think still just the concept, I
Well,
think wormed its way subconsciously.
I think there's something to be said for the fact that it was told to you from a young age and you could always see that ancestor there. And nobody ever said, oh, we don't do polygamy anymore. That's wrong and bad. It was, we don't do polygamy anymore because we don't do it anymore. When it really was, we don't do it anymore because the United States government threatened to go to war upon us if we didn't stop doing it. But the fact that a couple that gets married in a temple is sealed together for time and all eternity, including in the afterlife. So if a man marries a woman and she passes away, he can marry another woman. I mean, as long as they were joined in the temple, if he marries a second wife, he'll have two wives in the afterlife. And of course, when you're telling things to children, you're probably making it really like, it's all genial or whatever. Like, of course, Mr. loved all 11 of his wives. Like,
Right.
So you just have this naive concept of like, oh, men are big and strong and they work and make money and their wives stay at home and raise the babies. And of course, this man who's head of his family loves all 11 of his wives. So it's very, very naive and simplistic, but it is the concept of, yes, you can, in fact, romantically love more than one person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And here we are 40-ish years later doing it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Much different way. Certainly dig it more.
Well, I'm curious for you too, as you start to think, I mean, not that you know what's coming next, but you've been on this path now for 2.5 years, and it's been just sort of, I don't even want to say growth, because I don't think there's, one way is more evolved than another, but you've been on a path, and I'm curious if you know, or if you have thoughts or sort of feelings about where you see this path winding for the two of you.
It's a good question.
I don't really know. I know that I deleted the apps that I had on my phone. I'm not like looking for more people to date on an app. I'm open to meeting people and dating like people that I meet in the wild if that happens. But I feel like I'm pretty polysaturated, like romantically. And I'm talking to someone in the kink world because I've been looking for someone to do shibari with, both top and bottom. I'm interested in both. And so I've made a couple of connections and been trying to find somebody to play/work/practice with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
No, there was a fun concept, or I don't know if I would say concept, but sometimes I like just playing with words. I like saying that I feel polysatisfied.
Polysatisfied. I like it.
I like that too.
Than feeling saturated, which saturated could also describe where I'm at, but it's also, I'm feeling really satisfied in terms of like the partners that I'm with. And, I think just all of the different dynamics in terms of emotions and sex, a lot of sex.
This guy has so much sex, y'all. Like,
That's a pole vaulter.
Okay.
What do you
yeah,
expect?
Well, the fun thing that I did start doing this year, this is a small tangent.
He's such a nerd.
Is, I'm far from the only person to do this, but where I've called it the Sexcapades 2025 spreadsheet, where I keep track of, the day partner configuration, one-on-one, threesome, foursome, orgy, location of where I came, and then also any notes as well, because then it helps me to, kind of remember the experience. And I think when I checked it out, I'm at 72 times for the year so far.
How
which
many
is
days into the year are we?
about 80. I've been a busy boy. But then I figured it could be fun to do quarterly reports, so then, at the end of June, I can look at it, Q2 relative to Q1, back shots are down, but anal's up.
You need to come up with some sort of acronym for TPS report, like total something sex report or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Get the cover sheet for the TPS report.
Yeah, I see these reports evolving pretty significantly. If you write some macros, you can feed in weather data, you can feed in, all sorts of stuff, feed in your smartwatch, what was your heart rate, what was your blood pressure.
He totally can do that. He looks at his smartwatch sometimes to see the spike.
Well, I'm excited for version 2 of this spreadsheet.
That's awesome.
There's going to be an app. Just wait in 2026, the third time we come on.
Yeah, the next time you'll be here pitching to angel investors on our podcast. So yeah, I love it.
But as I think about the dynamic, like the fun thing, so like it's just fun for me to realize it's a Thursday night. We're sitting down with you all to have, fun, a conversation. And then tomorrow night, I'm going to be spending the night with a partner. She's going to have a friend come over that may or may not get kissy. And then the next day on Saturday, we've got some out-of-town friends that we swing with
couple
coming in, and then we'll be playing as a group.
Mm-hmm. And then in like a week or two after that, the wife of that couple is traveling to see her family. So he's just going to come, and I'm going to finally get my first MFM.
All the adventures.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which actually I'm kind of curious about. Like you've touched on it here, but maybe just to expand on, like how 72 times in 80 some days. But I'm curious, like what on average does it look like for you two? You talked about like you have Monday sleepover, but like on an average week or month, what is your schedule? Like how do you do it all?
How do you balance it all?
How the hell do you do this all?
Well, my job is part-time, and we're in a very slow season right now. This time of the year is usually really slow. So I'm only working a couple days a week, and I have a couple of volunteer activities I do here and there, but I have a lot of free time. So there's that.
So you do Brian's work so he can go bone and get his stats up. No?
That he wouldn't want to do my work, and I mean, he wouldn't want me to do his work, and I wouldn't want to. But my girlfriend comes over and stays on Monday. Sometimes we'll hang out all day Monday, and she'll leave early on Tuesday, or sometimes she'll come Monday night and stay until later Tuesday, and then maybe another day throughout the week something will work out. If it's a sleepover exchange, she might come back over, or we'll see each other in some other capacity that week. And then I have a couple of other friends that I might like cuddle with or do something during the day, because their schedules are also like they have a lot of time during the day. I think I just happen to have a lot of other connections that are able to do things in the day.
Yeah.
And I'm here in the evening.
Yes, and he's here in the evening, and on like lunch breaks or mornings before the morning meeting. He works from home, so there's always a chance for a fun little hot coffee break.
And I did clear in my office, I did clear out room under my desk, and there's also a kneeling pad.
Yes.
So, yeah.
You gotta get creative if you're going to get your stats up, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so one of your partners just lives 7 minutes away.
Mhm.
So sometimes he'll literally drive down there on a lunch break and like have lunch and a BJ or a quick romp with her.
Last week I ran over there.
Oh yeah, he went for a run.
Because I do distance running, and so Her place is roughly a 5K from here. So I said, cool. I usually sometimes will do a 5K on my lunch hour. So I was like, well, let me just go to your place then. And she's got a thing for me being like sweaty and a little bit odorous.
There you
So
go.
that's an easy way to deliver it.
Yeah. Everybody wins.
Yep.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love hearing how, I mean, the word that comes to mind is like diverse and just
Creative.
and it's not, we have to do it like this. It's just sort of, well, today it works like this. Next week it might be different. And we're just sort of open to what comes our way.
I have ADHD. I need novelty and excitement, and I want all the things and the variety. And gosh darn it, why can't we have it all?
Sounds like you're getting pretty damn close.
Well, and if I were good at shibari, I would be helping you out with that. But I'm terrible with knots, so I wound up getting more into like the chain bondage, and so I do like decorative chain harnesses.
Okay.
Would eventually love to get good at chain suspension. In no hurry to get there because that's, flirting with injury territory. So right now I'm just keeping it to everything on the ground, mostly decorative.
Yeah.
So since I can't tie knots, I can click together chains.
Mm-hmm. You found a workaround.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds like you two, you said you joined a kink club, and it sounds like maybe you're also starting to explore the kink side of things a little bit more as well.
Yeah, last summer, it was actually the same day as Pride in our city. We happened to attend a Shibari 101 class at our local dungeon. And it was me and my girlfriend and Brian and his girlfriend. And they stayed afterwards for the play party that came afterwards, but I had other stuff to do, so I couldn't stay that night, but I ended up going eventually. So that was kind of our entry to joining that kink club. We had known one or two people that were already members there as well. And so like I still don't know what I really want to do in the kink scene. I have a lot of things I'm interested in. I like the people there just because anybody who's been to a kink space knows that you're going to find a lot of neurodivergent weirdos and nice people. So
Neurodivergent weirdos in the best sense of the word.
Yeah, I mean, in the best sense of the word. Sorry, I just took it as a given that everybody knows that a neurodivergent weirdo is the best kind of person.
Agree.
Humbly.
Yes.
Well, and to facilitate that, I wound up grabbing a comically large sized duffel bag.
It's like a body bag. It's too big. Admit it. It's too.
It's definitely too big. But it's got all of my chains and, been building the, slowly adding to the like impact play implements. So, a combination of, probably 50 pounds worth of chains and then a whole bunch of beating implements.
Yeah.
Which is tough to run a 5K over to your partner's house with.
Does it work as a backpack too?
I feel like I could be like Jacob Marley or something for like, Halloween or Christmas, just wrap myself with the chains. And
I don't get that reference. Sorry.
Christmas Story, Charles Dickens, probably never heard
of it. Thank you both for this conversation. And I'm curious, I know, Margaret, you had a bullet point list before we started. Did we cover everything on the list?
Yeah, we touched everything on the list, including the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles bullet point.
Yes.
I got there. Oh, well, you know what we didn't? You didn't tell the story about your pseudonym.
Oh, yeah. So apparently...
This will be what do you call them?
The bloopers?
Bloopers, yeah.
Okay. So... When we were initially finding pseudonyms, when we weren't comfortable with folks knowing that we were non-monogamous initially, I had chosen the name Brett, which in retrospect is interesting because one of our swing partners laughed her ass off when I told her that I was going by Brett. She was just like, "You are so not a Brett." I don't know if you remember being in the car for that, where, she was... almost dying of laughter at how not a Brett I am. I don't know what makes a Brett, but I'm not a Brett, apparently. But that's what I was on Tinder. And as soon as I would connect with someone, I would let them know right away, hey, that's just a pseudonym. My actual name is Brian, right from the get-go, and then have the conversation. So met up with a gal, and we went on a really good first date. Ironically, we went to a place just down the road that has a free arcade version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game. And so that was our date, was that we beat it. Had a good time, walked back home. And then when we were having sex, however, she kept moaning Brett, even though I had told her that my name was Brian. And that's when you have that thought in your mind of going, this is amazing. Do I correct her now? No, don't correct her now. Wait till after. So I forgot how long after. I think it was, once the afterglow had, sort of settled in, and it was, by the way, just a gentle reminder, my name's Brian, not Brett, So that was just, I don't know what that, I had no idea what to feel when it's like, well, she's moaning it for me, thinking it's me, but that's not me.
Yeah, like, oh God, do I tell her now or do I wait? What's worse?
Yeah.
I mean, it's better that she wasn't like, oh, well, Brett's my other partner. And so it's a good thing you told me. Yeah.
Okay, so there's a question that you sometimes traditionally ask your guests, but you haven't asked us.
So for anybody who doesn't know, we do sometimes lead into the show with a question, and it's one of our most important questions.
It really is. It really is.
How we use it as an icebreaker, but what is the proper way to cut a grilled cheese? We often say there's no right way to do non-monogamy, but there is a right way to cut grilled cheese. So I'm curious, for the two of you, what do we bring into the table grilled cheese cutting wise?
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked us this question eventually, because after our first interview, I was kind of sad you didn't ask. So, because we have a fun answer for this.
I'm so excited.
A lot of times I'm too lazy and I just don't cut it at all. I just start scarfing it down. But if you're going to cut it, the proper way to cut it is diagonally.
Agreed.
And Brian learned this.
So, right. I don't know what it is. So I'm not a visual person. I'm a back end database kind of developer. Everything's all abstract, blah, blah, blah. So we've got, the sandwiches ready. And
he made, I think you made the sandwich for me. Mm-hmm. He was so kind and sweet and made me a grilled cheese sandwich.
And so she was sitting at the table, and I walked up to her and I said, okay, am I supposed to cut it down the vertical or the horizontal axis?
No, you said, how do you want me to cut it? Like this or like this? Like the square of bread as a square. He said, vertical or horizontal.
And she looked at me and she said, diagonal, you monster.
It's a valid answer. I mean, you've got to
it looks like kill. Like, I had stank eye and WTF face.
Regrets about the entire foundation upon which
I'm going to have to rethink this entire marriage.
And your reasoning behind diagonal?
Well, I'm not a big grilled cheese and tomato soup eater. If I was, I would say that it's easier to dip the corners, but really it's just easier to have a nice tasty triangular bite to bite into. Like if you want to take that one super ooey gooey bite in the middle that has no crust, or you can start on the corner and it's nice and easy and you're not cutting the corners of your mouth with a whole slab of bread. Lots of reasons.
Yes.
It is fundamentally the best way. There is no argument from us. Well, from me.
No, me either.
And welcome to the club, Brian.
Yes.
Yep. Next time I'll just cut it into fours.
Into cubes.
Yeah.
I've done that. I have done that.
I have. I wouldn't do it with a grilled cheese, but I do it with other kinds of sandwiches. There's just something about specifically a grilled cheese that it needs to be cut diagonally. Other sandwiches, maybe we can argue, we could talk.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I love it, and I love that you brought it up. So thank you for that. And and is there anything else that we didn't bring up today that you wanted to get out there in the world before we let you go until the next time?
I don't
Nothing?
know. I don't think so. We covered a lot.
We
covered a ton.
did.
We got the whole bullet point list. We got sandwiches.
Uh-huh.
We got bloopers. We got it all.
Religion.
Religion.
Yeah, probably.
Soup to nuts, as they say.
We'll probably reach out again once we've, purchased like the land and the compound and expanded to like a 20-person community. We'll let you know how that's going.
Excellent. Excellent.
We can't wait.
Yeah. Once you roll out your app, that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
I
A sex
love it.
tracker app.
That's right. Well, thank you both again for reaching out the first time to come on, for reaching back out, for sharing everything with us. We're just really grateful, and it's been wonderful chatting today.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're back. A huge thank you to Megan and Brett for coming on the show a second time, sharing an update. It was lovely to talk with you.
And we can't wait for the third time. We're already talking about it.
Yes!
It's already in the works. So we cannot wait to bring you two back. Thank you again for coming on and sharing your story twice.
A quick reminder that our next community workshop is going to be June 25th on Releasing the Fear of Abandonment with Orit Krug. You can learn more and sign up to join us over on our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. Click on the community tab. All of the links are right there.
Yeah, and if you want to learn more about all of the workshops, those are under the resources tab, or there's a link under the community tab. You know what? You'll find it. We believe in you. We made it pretty easy. So please check those out. We'd love to have you join us in June for the workshop.
And next week, we have another interview. Surprise, surprise.
Shocking.
This one is going to be with Lola. It's a great conversation. Come back and listen.
We'll see you all in a week.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.